Johnson. I'm with Music Compound. Right now I'm just kind of hanging out while we're waiting on some people to join on. But today's subject for Music Compound's backstage is going to be linear drumming. What that is, how to start using it. It is kind of for intermediate or advanced drummers, but I think some beginners could also get something out of this, and there's certainly things you could start playing right away that can kind of get you into it. So I guess while we're waiting on people, I'm just going to keep on jamming out with some linear drumming. Looks like we got a few people signed on right now. So I wanted to start talking about linear drumming and what that is. Basically, a lot of, if you're familiar, hopefully all of you are familiar with drum set, or if not, most of the beats we play are layered usually when we're learning drums and stuff, I think for popular music and most of the stuff that a lot of drum set players are playing. So we learn how to kind of keep time with one hand, and that just kind of plays steadily, maybe quarter notes, or eighth notes, or 16th notes, or whatever. And at the same time, we're playing our bass drum and our snare drum. We're going to be playing the ride to keep time, but it's kind of those basic elements usually. So we're kind of just playing a lot of stuff at the same time. So basically, linear drumming is kind of where we might be playing a steady stream of notes, but it's not going to be overlapping with any other part of the drum set, basically, or with any other limbs. Now, it doesn't have to be exclusively that way. It could maybe, you could maybe combine linear drumming with layered drumming. It doesn't have to be separate, but it's just kind of playing around with some of those ideas. The reason I wanted to talk about it in the first place is that it always kind of like, I never knew what some of these guys were doing when I was younger, listening to some of this music where there would be these really powerful like fills and some of these beats where I'm just like, whoa, I have no idea what's happening because their hands aren't moving that fast. I don't understand where the rhythm's coming from that fast. I mean, you kind of, when you're young, you don't know what to listen for, you don't know what you're hearing sometimes. So it's just a really cool vibe. A lot of times they sound kind of choppy or like something like that. But if you're pretty smooth, you can make them sound smooth as well. So it doesn't have to be choppy all the time. But so basically, I wanted to start out with some basic rock beats that I think a lot of drummers will know. and then just show some examples of basic linear beats, and then talk about how to use linear drumming and beats and fills and all that stuff. So let's take like a regular, actually I think a lot of people probably know this beat. It's very simple, so we're not going to be playing any two things at the same time. That's the whole theme of the linear drumming, right? So it's going to be bass drum, hi-hat, snare drum, hi-hat is the pattern. And that's a pretty common beat for like a lot of the, I think, modern pop songs. Some of the upbeat ones that have like club beats and stuff like that, or electronic music, they use this beat a lot. So, bass drum, hi-hat, snare drum, hi-hat. And if you're wondering how to count that, basically your snare drum and your snare drum's going to be on 2 and 4 like usual, bass drum on 1 and 3, and your hi-hat's hitting all the 8th note ands in between the upbeats. So 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1. So that'd be a very simple linear pattern that could get you started on some of this. It's kind of just like feeling a steady rhythm while alternating between all your limbs. So sometimes people use this in fills already too, maybe. That's feeling the rhythm between 2 of your limbs. A lot of times though, it's usually incorporating our feet in some way. So another common example of this, if we have any Led Zeppelin fans out there, John Bonham was famous for this. He did a lot of linear triplet fills and like his solos and that kind of thing. So that one, you know, it's basically, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but like foot, hand, hand, foot, hand, or hand, foot, foot. So we're playing triplets there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So with those, it's pretty fun. You can, you don't have to be able to play really, really fast in a technical sense in order to be able to play faster rhythms. It's more just through coordination, being able to play those rhythms faster. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, let's talk about how to kind of take maybe beats that you already know and turn them into linear beats. So actually a really good example of this would be, there's a beat on Heathens by 21 Pilots. I think a lot of kids are familiar with them right now. But basically in that song, generally speaking, if you heard it and you were a drummer already, you'd probably hear this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and bass drum's on 1 and the and of 3, hi-hat's doing 8th notes, and the snare drum's on 2 and 4. Pretty straightforward beat, that's in a lot of songs. But the way the drummer's actually doing it, if you listen closely, he's actually playing it in a linear fashion, where he's not playing the bass drum at the same time as the hi-hat, or the hi-hat at the same time as the snare drum. Everything is kind of separate. So it sounds more like this. So it gives it a little bit of a different vibe, a little bit choppier, and it sounds kind of cool in some ways. A little bit of funkiness to it. I kind of like it. So, but let's just I mean, basically, if you take a rock beat that you already know, a simple one, we're going to kind of start with 8th note patterns, right? Just try to, if you take a basic rock beat like we just did, wherever you play the bass drum and wherever you play the snare drum, just don't play the hi-hat there, leave it out. So, for example, if you play your regular rock beat 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you do that, you get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's the first beat we played earlier. So, same thing with the 21 Pilots song. You could take, if you know, like a beat for Free Fallin' or Natural by Imagine Dragons or 20 other songs with the same exact beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you can do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So there's a basic linear beat example. So you can kind of start taking beats you already know and turning them into linear beats. After that, you can start looking at a little bit more complicated examples, get into triplets like we talked about just a minute ago, and then even 16th notes. So I really like the way some of these grooves feel. This is getting a little more advanced, but you can always practice these basic patterns to get started on it and get the coordination down. So I guess we'll start with triplets. And I think one of the easiest ones to do is just to really get your bass drum used to playing quarter notes, where you're gonna play 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter if you do left, right, or right, left, but I would stick to one right now. So either kick, right, left, or kick, left, right. And before you start trying to move it around, let's just practice it on bass drum and snare drum. So you would do kick, doing this, for the most part, I'm playing them kind of straight, just straight triplets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I recommend kind of learning them like that. That's a little bit more challenging at first to keep it even as you speed it up, but it's going to mean your coordination is going to be a little more consistent and a little bit better. You can play them where they're maybe like, which is happening faster and all kind of grouped together with a rest in the middle. You can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's definitely a variation, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do the steady triplets. And if you can do that, you can certainly kind of slow it down or just kind of do three note groupings quicker and then pause in between. So that's the simplified version. You can speed it up a little bit. So you're going to want to try different speeds. As far as just working on your kind of smoothness with this and your ability to do it consistently, metronome practice is great. It's a little bit boring, but it really works. Put on the metronome slowly and just have your bass drum playing the quarter notes. So, bullet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. Once you get a hang of it, you can start to move it around the drum set. So you can see a lot of fill applications there, ways to use that in the fill, but also doesn't have to be just on tom-toms and snare drum. You can certainly do it on your hi-hat and your snare drum as well to make a beat. So we could do, obviously the natural thing would be to come up with triplet patterns, right? So if you play around with the dynamics a little bit, it can be really neat to have your snare drum kind of quiet and your hi-hat a little bit louder, so they kind of blend a little bit and you get the steady kind of pattern. And you can do all sorts of variations with that. One that I like to do is just play that. So I'm playing kick, left, right, which is kick, snare drum, hi-hat. So if you play that variation 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at the end play snare drum, hi-hat. Okay? So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So at the end, you're kind of slowing down and playing 8th notes there. This is actually not triplets, it's actually 16th notes, but it's played in groupings of 3, so that's what makes it kind of neat as well. But we're still using that kind of grouping of 3. So, but 4 times with the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I'm accenting that last snare drum hit. That kind of gives us a little bit of a backbeat vibe. And then I can start also accenting the second grouping of 3, that snare drum hit, and then I really have my classic snare drum on 2 and 4 backbeat, okay? So hopefully everyone knows that accented notes are just louder notes, right? So I'm trying to play my snare drum pretty quiet, basically ghost notes if you've heard of those, for the most part. And then I'm gonna start accenting, like I was accenting the 4th beat, the 4th snare drum hit, I guess the 5th actually. It's on beat 4. So I was accenting that one. Now I'm going to start accenting the second one, the second triplet or grouping of 3, and that's going to give us that classic 2 and 4. So. All right. So there's a grouping of 3 that you can practice as a beat. If you want to play it as a fill, you can do a lot of different things. You can do. Okay, so all I'm doing there is left, right, kick, left, right, kick, left, right, left, rest, and then I crash. You can do whatever variations you want. I would just play around with it, honestly, and kind of come up with your own stuff. Just make sure you can do the coordination first, and practice it slowly, and just experiment. With that one, I like coming up with little tom patterns that are just kind of simple melodies, almost like making your own song. Check it out. Lastly, I wanted to talk about some 16th note patterns and that kind of thing. So if you're getting a little more advanced, of course, earlier we were playing groupings of 3 over 16th notes, which is interesting, but playing straight 16th notes, a really common example of this in popular drumming is to basically play 2 on the hands and 2 on the feet. So a lot of times we're going to be doing snare drum and bass drum. Or toms and bass drum, so maybe right, left, right, left. So right, left on your hands, right, left on your feet, or the opposite, right, left on your feet first, then right, left on your hands. Any variation of that. So that would be if you have a double bass drum pedal, or if you are able to do doubles with your single kick. A lot of people can probably do that if they're a little more advanced or been playing for a few years, playing any sort of faster songs with faster bass drum parts. You can probably already do some doubles, even if just slowly. So even if you just have a single kick drum pedal, you can still practice these. So let's look at that. So kick, kick, hand, hand, kick, kick, hand. So I'm just using a single bass drum pedal right now, just my right one to play both those bass drum hits. And then I'm doing, for me, I've actually always practiced left, right. A lot of people will feel more comfortable with right, left. I practice variations of both, so whatever you want to do, it's fine. But kick, kick, right, left, kick, kick, right, left, kick, kick, right, left, kick, kick, right, left. Songs, especially if you listen to like metal and stuff like that, you'll definitely hear it, heavier rock, that kind of thing. But it's really pretty fun thing once you kind of get it. So there's a lot of different variations of like what patterns you can play. Right now we're just doing 2 on the hands, 2 on the feet. You could do 3 on the hands, 2 on the feet. You could do 4 with your hands, 2 with your feet. That's a really popular one. And with all of these, you can always change the order too. So there's so many different variations with all of this. And it's a really cool feeling when you get them. It's like a full body kind of experience where you're having to use, almost all of your limbs. Sometimes you do use the hi-hat as well, or if you're playing with a double bass drum pedal, you're definitely using all 4 of your limbs. So it's pretty neat to have them all coordinated together. So if you have it just right, you can play a lot faster too than you would be able to with maybe just your hands. So let's look at some different patterns with that, and then I think we're gonna wrap it up for the day. Let's try moving it around the drum set. I think mostly would be pretty cool. So if we take that right, left, kick, kick, right, left, kick, kick, or kick, kick, right, left, however you want to do it, hands or feet first. There's a basic one. You can try 4 on your hands. You can start to move those 4 hits between more than one drum. And then also, of course, we can still use this. This has pretty much all been like shredding, fill stuff, showing off for your friends. But you can still make beats with this kind of exact pattern as well. So some of these can get a little more complicated. You may actually want to be able to do double strokes as well. Like an open roll where you're hitting twice with every stick, but you're using rebound, of course. So let's look at some examples of that though. With this one, you may want to find one specific pattern where you can kind of just experiment. You could do so that's bass drum, and then I'm doing 2 hi-hats, snare drums, 2 hi-hats, and then if anyone's interested in this, please message us. I can send you some kind of a little bit more intricate patterns that are kind of fun. So, well, at this point, I think I'm just going to play a few variations of some of these linear patterns, and yeah. I think that covers a lot of linear drumming stuff right now. So I hope everyone's staying healthy. So once again, I'm Jared Johnson from Music Compound. I'm a drum instructor there. We are doing virtual lessons right now. So for those of you who aren't aware, we're still teaching drums and guitar and piano and ukulele and all that stuff. We're even continuing our rock band programs just by having everyone practice, from home and work on songs and stuff. So if you're sitting around looking for something to do, please give us a call. We can set up some virtual lessons for you. And yeah, stay healthy. We'll see you next time.